Welcome back, racing fans, from our set just outside the Winter Circle. Dave Little with you, and I'm joined by the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Hambletonian Society, John Campbell, who knows a thing or two about Hambletonian Day. John, how you doing today?
I'm doing really well, Dave, thanks.
John, I want to talk about a couple of things with you today, but I want to lead off with something that, a lot of the race fans really don't know about, and that's about the effect that Joe DeFrank has had, not only on racing at the Meadowlands, but on your career. But I'm going to start with Joe's effect on racing at the Meadowlands, his invention of the Meadowlands pace. Talk about some of the big impacts that Joe had.
Well, he totally changed the stake program when the Meadowlands opened up. When they started in 1976, the bet was just phenomenal for that time, and they had money that they weren't sure what to do with. And
Right.
Joe started the Meadowlands pace in 1977, so that was the first big stake, and that was all his vision. And from there, he went to the Woodrow Wilson and Sweetheart and $1 Million Babies. He was instrumental in the Hambletonian coming here from DuQuoin. And at that time, no other track or race secretary had come up with this concept. So the purses here at the Meadowlands were just phenomenal. And we had 10 divisions of the Woodrow Wilson at one time. You had to win
To get in.
So imitation being the best form of flattery, other tracks came along, and the Breeders' Crown evolved from that concept as well. So he was the pioneer of the stakes season, and all these tracks having these stakes. It all came from Joe DeFrank's vision.
John, a lot of the people who are here today don't know that back in 1985, or 1984, I should say, when Annihilator won the Woodrow Wilson, that was the biggest purse in the history of the sport, over $2.1 million, and that was for two-year-old racing. There was such a big interest in the two-year-olds, and they had so much purse money at that point. Why has it gotten away from the two-year-olds?
Well, again, I talk about that imitation being the best form of flattery. There was competition from other tracks. Races came on later in the year. The Breeders' Crown was formed. The Metro that came out of that vision of Joe's in Toronto. So people had more options at that time. When he started the Woodrow Wilson, the biggest two-year-old stake was the Fox State at the Indiana State Fair. And, people just can't believe that today when you tell them that. So he totally changed the whole dynamic of stake racing.
All right, let's go to the post-parade, and after this, we'll be back with more John Campbell. All right, racing fans, we're back with John Campbell. And John, let's move on from Joe DeFrank and talk a little bit about what Ken just alluded to, all of our great friends, the great Sam McKee. He came here, and he was a bit of an unknown, but boy, he sure did have an impact here at the Meadowlands.
He certainly did, and obviously he's so well known for his race calling, which was just, so excellent and exciting. When you hear those replays and Sam's voice comes in, you immediately pay attention. He just had a flair for the dramatic, and he was so good at what he did calling races. But what a lot of people don't understand, what he did behind the scenes. He was, he was so knowledgeable about the simulcast wagering, publicity. He did he was a jack of all trades behind the scenes here to put on a race program, and it's really obviously a tragic loss for his family, but it's a tragic loss for harness racing because guys like Sam McKee just don't come along.
Yeah, because the fact of the matter is he was such a likable guy, and you find in harness racing, sometimes guys get the job done, but they're not extremely likable. Sam was just the opposite.
He did everything, even when he was having a bad day, he did it with a smile on his face.
That's true.
I'd see him after the races some night, and he might be frustrated, but as soon as you saw him and you made eye contact, his face lit up.
Well, absolutely. So it's great for us to pay homage to our great friend, Sam McKee, the first of two Sam McKee divisions coming up in the 10th race. Now, John, we can't let you go before we talk a little Hambletonian with you. You are the all-time most prolific Hambletonian winning driver with 6 out of your 6 Hambletonian winning drives. What one was the most impressive?
Well, I guess Mac Lobel would be the most impressive. I mean, it's really hard to separate Hambletonian wins because that's what we're in it for. I mean, and from an emotional standpoint, winning with my brother's horse, Tagliabue, Glide Master, when I won with him, I'd come back from a pretty serious injury in 2003 and got back to win the Hambletonian again. That meant a lot to me, but every Hambletonian was special. It's what we strive for. Just being involved. I used to just love coming into the track on Hambletonian Day, and if I was fortunate enough to win a race, it didn't have to be the Hambletonian. That was a good day for me.
The fans love to come out on Hambletonian Day. Obviously, us, the TV talent, we love to come out How do the participants, the trainers and the drivers and the owners, how much do they get excited for Hambletonian Day?
Oh, absolutely. The intensity from the drivers and the trainers' standpoint just goes way up in Hambletonian Day. It's just different. It's the playoffs.
Right.
Here, and here we go. And you look at the racing today. Their races are on. They're out there. They're going. But there is added pressure just even in overnights on Hambletonian Day. Guys are more on edge, more excited, and more prone to give their horse a bigger chance because they want a Hambletonian Day win.
John Campbell, harness driver, is now John Campbell, the corporate head, president and CEO of the Hambletonian Society. What's been the biggest adjustment for you?
Well, the first year, obviously, being away from the track, I did miss it and when the weather was good. It'd only take 4 or 5 drops of rain, and I didn't miss it. But I was very fortunate, and the transition went quite smoothly. The staff has been great. Maura Fanning has just been wonderful to work with, and Tom Charters made the transition so much easier. He didn't just step away and say, "Here you go, John." He was very instrumental in me sliding into the position, and I can always, and still do, call on him for guidance. So the transition was remarkably smooth for me from my standpoint because of those two people.
Now, we're getting close to post time. The last question I want to ask you is a very important one. What is your objective in your new position in terms of harness racing moving forward?
Well, our objective, it's in our bylaws, our mandate is to promote and support the breeding of the standardbred industry and the stakes. And that's what we do 365 days a year.
Well, hopefully a lot of successful harness racing days lie ahead with John Campbell at the helm of the Hambletonian Society Breeders' Crown. John, thanks so much for spending a few minutes with us.
My pleasure, Dave.
All right, let's go to the 10th race. Sam McKee Memorial. Ken Warkentin has the call.
And field for the first division